Get ready to embark on a journey of resilience and healing with Building Bulletproof Backs. In this captivating podcast, we explore the inspiring stories of real-life back pain sufferers who have overcome challenges to find a path to wellness. Led by Marion McRae, a seasoned physiotherapist with over 25 years of experience, each episode delves into the transformative power of holistic healing strategies that empower individuals to reclaim their lives from the grips of pain. Join us as we uncover innovative solutions and offer a beacon of hope to all those seeking relief and a brighter future.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Backs podcast. My very patient guest, Paul Buckey, has been super patient with a few technical imperfections this morning in Australia and evening in your part of the world. Paul's has some information about a method of healing called BioTouch. And given that this podcast is all about sharing with back pain sufferers anything that might give them a bit of a leg up on their healing journey, I thought Paul would be a great person to have a chat with. So without any further hesitations of scheduling or technology or anything, Paul, welcome. And would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Well, so my name is Paul Buckey. Appreciate you having me on here. And I am the founder and the executive director of an organization that teaches BioTouch healing. And we teach it around the world, especially now that we've learned how to do that through Zoom and other virtual trainings. Also, it's an easy technique that everybody at home can learn on their own. And hopefully by the end of this little discussion, people will feel excited about wanting to learn how to work with back pain, shoulder pain, or we're talking structural stuff right now, but BioTouch can work with any symptom of disease and just stress reduction, pain reduction. All of that's available to people. So,
and how did you discover the method, Paul, for yourself?
Well, that's a good, fun story. So it started back in the mid 80s when I was living the hippie life out here in the United States and living out on some land and no running water, no electricity, no mailbox. It was the perfect life and perfect health. And we had to sell that property, move into this little town in Southwest Colorado. It was 900 people. Very conservative community. And my wife and I we were the town hippies. And all of a sudden I got this back pain and the pain was going down my leg. And in those days I had given up anybody that had a title. So chiropractors, MD, DC, IRS, it didn't matter. And especially healers, I had gone through the circuit of healers and things. So I tried a lot of self-healing things, which is a big thing in the healing world. And so I tried meditating, I tried stretching, I tried exercises, I tried prayer, but a year later, I still had this pain. And I realized something important about self-healing. And that is, if it doesn't work, you create another problem. So not only did I have a pain in the butt, I also had a spiritual, emotional pain because obviously I wasn't positive enough. I didn't have a good attitude. I was paying some old karmic debts or what, it goes on and on and on. So I'm dealing with this pain and the whole town, now this is a very conservative community, was talking about this guy doing healing work and he lived outside of town and he was there looking for gold and silver in the old mines. He's a mining engineer. And the minute they said healing work, I still was very skeptical. But I was on the way to the dump one day in my old pickup truck, and here's this guy's house. He didn't have a telephone. So the truck and I drive up the driveway, and this guy comes out on the embankment, and he looked like a guy in the 50s in the Navy. He had a big barrel chest, tight white T-shirt, rolled up sleeves, cigarette stuck in the sleeve, the greased back groom and clean hairdo. And I'm down below in the embankment and I, cut off jeans, a ponytail, a bushy beard. And I'm like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. So I said, I'm sorry. I'm looking for a guy who does healing work. And they said he lived somewhere around here. And he says, "Oh, that's me. My name's Norman." And I went, "Oh, okay. Well, I have a back problem. Can you help?" He said, "Yeah, sure. Come on up to the house." So we walk up the stairs. We get to the house, open the sliding glass doors, and I'm inundated with smoke. By the time I could see through the smoke, here's his wife, and she's pouring coffee. This couple were chain smokers and chain coffee drinkers from 6 a.m. until midnight. And I sat down at the table, and inside I was like, this is impressive. There's no pretense of healing going on here. And the soaps were playing on the TV. There was cookies and cakes all around, and, everything against how I was living, eating sprouts and whole foods and drinking green drinks and stuff. And as I say to people, there was no whale music or tingling cymbals or incense burning. It was just a down home kind of house. And after talking for about 20 minutes, he takes me into his bedroom. He had no special space, and he washes his hands, and he takes the index and the middle finger of each hand, and he lightly touches some points on my body, on the skin, very lightly, like a butterfly. And he does a series of points. He lays me on my stomach. He touches the points on my back. And after about 15 minutes, he leaves. He doesn't tell me he's done. And when I went out to ask him what he did, he said, "Well, I just touched." And I said, "Well, what should I expect to have happen?" And he said, "Whatever." I said, "Well, should I come back?" And he says, "Well, if you want." And then the kicker was when I said, "Well, how much do I owe you?" And he said, "Oh, no, we don't charge." Not only did they not charge, they discouraged people from leaving things. So you'd find a pack of cigarettes hidden in the pillow, a can of coffee under the bed. People would bring food, and people came from all over what's called the Four Corners area to get sessions, to get worked on by Norman and his wife, Carol. The short of the story was 2 sessions, and that year's worth of pain was gone. It was completely gone.
Wow.
And then
Paul?
Go ahead.
Sorry. So how did you rationalize that after all the things you tried? Like, what comes to mind for me is when we talk about self-healing, maybe the message is we heal better in relationship to somebody else. And I know a lot of the psychedelics work is talking about we're humans and we heal best in a community. Yeah, so I get a sense that there may be something along those lines going on.
That's exactly the essence of the program that we teach called BioTouch. It's about one person touching another. And that came to the real awareness where the people that were hanging out in Norman's room, they wouldn't talk to each other if they were on the streets. I mean, very conservative people. You had migrant farm workers there. You had Indians from the reservation. But one of the old timers came and said, Norman and Carol brought love to the Vancus Valley. And I had been seeking love, guru, and God for decades before. And here it was in this little town with this touch. And so that is really the basis of BioTouch healing. One person touching another lightly on the skin, no intention. It's really just about an expression of love. We hear love thy neighbor. And this is a perfect application of that. And healing happens best in relationship.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, I think that energy of love coming through someone's hands is super powerful. I would say that's hard for people to find that space within themselves to give that to others. So the method could be quite simple. To me, after having looked at the book that you shared, the tricky part is having the hands-on person generating that sense of love for the person on the receiving end, which is easy if it's a family member or a pet, but may be tricky for a random stranger walking through the door, but maybe not. in the case of Norman?
You have great insights here because this is the difficult thing of getting BioTouch out to people to do it, because we haven't been taught that it's our birthright to be happy, healthy, and loved. It's a birthright. You don't have to go get it. But it's been so squashed through our education, through a lot of these healing techniques, through the medical system. I mean, the medical system definitely takes away our power, but even a lot of these healing systems, it's about somebody else, taking care of us. But this technique is really about experiencing and allowing yourself to know that you too can help another human being without having to think about it. There's no intention. You don't have to center yourself or get clear. You can think about what you're going to have for dinner. You can be doing it in front of the TV set. And that's the beauty of it. It's putting healing at its very simplest form. And if you do that, then you allow the masses of people to start participating in a healing process and create stronger relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, relationships in themselves is the healing. I think there's so much when someone feels genuinely seen or heard or validated in the experience they're having. I think that's step one for most people in pain is no one's judging me. Someone's literally just allowing me to be in this place and they want to help me, genuinely want to help me. I think a lot happens just in that real, authentic exchange of I'm here to help, or it's okay that you're in pain. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to tell you a list of things you need to do. Let's just be okay with you being in pain. So yeah, you're bringing up some very subtle aspects of the journey for a back pain sufferer, which is what I love about these chats. It helps me see things from another perspective perpetually. So the method itself, the booklet is pretty awesome, I would say. It's pretty, you can, go through to exactly if it's a neck, if it's a back, or, all the other modalities that the BioTouch method can have an influence on. Would you like to speak more about the actual protocol? Did you actually put the book together?
Well, when I was with Norman and I heard that old timer say Norman and Carol brought love to the Mancos Valley, I said, we need to get this out to the public. And so, as they say, I was the stooge or the nudge that helped create the way to teach it. So he had a bunch of drawings. Right. Norman's the one who came up with the system, actually. And he came upon it in an emergency. A lady was hemorrhaging, having a miscarriage. He spontaneously said, I think I can help. He did some points that came to him and she stopped hemorrhaging immediately and was able to carry the baby full term. And over the years, points would come to him and he'd jot them down on pieces of paper. And so by the time I said, we need to teach this, he gave me these pieces of paper that had scratch figures and little points on them. And we created the training manual that is available to people to learn it. And then we created a language that anybody can understand. We don't use technical language. We use things like big bone or the muscle in the front of it, and so anybody can read this manual and go directly to the point. And then the manual even comes with, especially if it's the ebook version, comes with links with a video that shows somebody doing the points and telling you where the points are. So you just really can't go wrong. And there's no contraindication. If you don't hit the right point, you're not going to hurt somebody. That's what's nice too.
Exactly. That was my message for listeners who are probably thinking, is this safe to have an experimentation with? Yeah, like it's so light. And I do think it is a very safe modality to play with, even if you enter it from a space of curiosity, let's see what this guy's talking about and have a little play with it. It would be really interesting to see what people experience. And it is something that a family member can do for you, a carer, a mother to a son, within the family. I see it as a beautiful method that can be played with for not just back pain, but a lot of different ailments that we find ourselves experiencing in today's world. So what's Norman doing now? I'm curious. Is he still alive?
No, he's long gone.
Oh,
He's long
oh,
gone.
yeah.
What's nice is that the system is, and our big goal in the organization is to make sure that we keep the system simple. Everybody wants to always add on 2 cents and stuff, but there's only 17 sets of points. You only have to do 1 or 2. If I'm just dealing with, let's say, just a neck pain, that would take somebody maybe 3 to 5 minutes to do those light points on the neck. And the nice thing about this is, and you talked about it, it meets people in their pain and it says, we're okay here. Everything's going to be okay. We're just going to touch, and then we're going to let the body do whatever it wants to do in its healing process. And many times it's a situation where people wake up to their own body. It's about self-awareness, and it's about being mindful of your body, which many of us are disconnected from our body. And so what this allows us to do is meet us in our pain, help us wake up to that. And then the body and whatever it is in us that does healing work starts finding ways to get better. So it might find a chiropractor, or it might get an MRI, or it might get a massage. Who knows? And that's none of our business. Our goal is to help you and your body figure out what's best for you. And
and I love that. I love that's a key point as well, that often with these different modalities, they're not exclusive of other therapies. They're just complementary, and they can be the little add-on that, especially for affordability, like seeing a therapist can be quite expensive, and you may invest in the therapist for some education or some movement exercises, or, the bit that you can work on in your own home. But then, this sort of stuff is also very useful for the body on another level, and it's free and portable and cheap. And I guess once you've learned the points, you can't unlearn the points. So, I see it as a simple investment of a few hours of your time, particularly to explore just yet another option of healing.
Yeah. And I'll just take a moment here. We have a thing called the greeting. Okay. It's the one thing we do before we do anything else. It's also the one thing that we know when one person does it to another, there's this awe moment. You even see in people, their body relaxes. And it's a very simple system that I'll teach right here. You take the index and the middle finger of your dominant hand, so all of your listeners can do that, and they can find that first point with the dominant hand, and it's just right below the breastbone. Right below the breastbone, it gets soft as it goes into the tummy area, and you hold that point with the index and middle finger for 6 to 8 seconds. Okay? And then you're going to take that same dominant hand. And if you feel in the back of your neck and you follow from the base of your skull, go down the neck, there's a big bone that pops out. We call it the big bone. Some people call it C7. And if you go just to the left of that, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, again, lightly like a butterfly, that's what we call point 2. Okay. If you just do that with another human being, and then you can always, if you don't know anything else in the system, is you can take both hands, the index and middle finger of both hands, and then you could lightly touch just where the pain is, even if you don't know anything else. So if I have just a low back pain, I could take those 2 fingers of each hand and lightly touch around the pain, on the pain, or I could we call sweep. I could slowly move across the painful area. Okay. And that's going to be beneficial. We've seen it over and I've been doing this for 30 some odd years, and I just see it over and over. Just that simple light touch can help reduce the pain.
Yeah. And my mind goes to the physiological explanations as to why that might work. And, light touch versus deep touch, which receptors are activated, which ones are stimulated, do they block the pain signal? We could go down that rabbit hole, but ultimately, who cares as long as there's a sense of relief in the person and their body? And I think sometimes not knowing mechanisms is really useful. I get bogged down in that a lot myself. So I love this concept of simplicity because I do think healing is simple. I think it's simply about acknowledging our bodies do know what to do. And maybe even that light touch is just a remembering of the body that something's going on here. And it creates an awareness and a breath direction into that space. You know, who knows? But I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of simplicity. I do think it is everything when it comes to healing. And I see a lot of people making healing complex. They're getting perceptions in their head that it has to be 45 minutes of exercise, that it has to be a diligent meditation routine with perfect diet and perfect sleep. And, you know, I think we need to watch our mental space about what we believe is required for healing and catch ourselves if we're starting to get into that cycle. And, you know, sit back into a breath in a moment of stillness can shift a lot in a body. Physically, it can shift a nervous system out of, you know, sympathetic to parasympathetic. So, you know, the simple stuff, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but to me, it is really where the power lies. So, Paul, when I say, what would be your top 3 tips for someone in back pain listening now?
Well, one, you could just do that greeting that I showed you.
Yep.
And then take the 2 fingers, index and middle finger, and lightly touch around the pained area. That's a good start. The other thing would be to go to our website, justtouch.com. And if you can't remember the greeting, you can download for free the first 10 pages of the manual, which teaches you the greeting.
Right.
And the main point would be just try it. You know, we always say, if you have somebody at home, and if you each did the greeting with one another, which we have shown, we actually have research data to show that BioTouch actually levels out cortisol levels and raises what's called interleukin-12 levels, which is an immune system, build our immune system. So just doing the greeting with a loved one, and you do it with them and they do it with you, it would take you 30 seconds. 30 seconds. So I'm asking people, give yourself and your loved one 30 seconds out of a day. That's how simple it is.
Yeah. Because that does give a lot to the person receiving, doesn't it? It gives them all those things we talked about. You know, they feel seen, they feel valued, they feel like someone cares. We cannot underestimate those simple basics of healing. That's great.
Just to build on that, though, is it also gives the caregiver or the partner the feeling of participating in their healing. They're not hopeless. They're not helpless. I mean, when I worked on my mother, who they basically killed on the operating table, they said if she lived, she'd be a vegetable. All I had was BioTouch. The short of the story was 6 months later, she was walking on a beach in Hawaii. So, and I learned how important it was for the caregivers. It gives us something we can do for our loved ones who are sitting there in pain, and we feel helpless. And so to be able to reach out and touch a loved one to give some relief without having to know all kinds of stuff is really beneficial to the caregiver also.
Yeah, that's a great one, because I think it's like any illness, all the attention goes to the person in the experience, and the experience is having a profound effect on everyone in the dynamic. And often those caregivers, partners, kids, even though the experience is deeply impactful for them, they're not really given anything. They're not really given any attention. They're not really given any acknowledgement even that this person's experience is having a deep impact on them. So I really like that perspective that you've shared as well. I like that, because in healing or putting some intentional love into someone else, we're always receiving when we're giving, aren't we? So it's an exchange of energy, which from a space of love and positive intention magnifies as it's received back.
Yes. Perfect. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And if I talk to you about a bulletproof back, what does that look like to you? How's your back these days?
My back is great. I mean, I'll tweak it out, or I'll do something
Yeah.
stupid or lifts. And then I just either get a BioTouch session from my partner, or then I'll go see a chiropractor, or I'll go to physical therapy, or I'll go swim. Okay. But the BioTouch helps me wake up to, what does this body need? Maybe it needs nothing. Maybe it needs for me to relax. So after doing this for 35 years, it's, as you said, it's really about my own self-awareness and knowing within me, I really have the tools and the knowingness of what to do to take care of myself. So I might have to talk to a doctor or but I have to trust myself. And that's what BioTouch has given me, the opportunity to trust my knowingness to get help for my particular problems.
Yeah. And even that, I will just say, I had an experience yesterday in my own clinic. I guess it's always what I attempt to bring clients to is their own inner empowerment in this experience for themselves and to be guided by what they feel is required for them. But I do notice a trend of a lot of people wanting to outsource those decisions to a therapist. And there's almost pushback when I try and push back that onto them. It can be a little bit of a argy-bargy moment of, but hang on, I'm coming to you to fix this. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not here to fix this. I'm here to empower you in your own journey. So we have, it can be quite a little, and I notice internally I get there's a little part of me that gets a bit agitated as well. So just speak to that? What do you observe that? And where do you think that comes from?
I think it's just the training we've had for generations. And yeah, we just had a show on our podcast where we talked about center, which has no charge, all volunteers. None of us get paid for doing this. How come it's not packed with people? I think you just hit it right, the nail on the head. We have not been trained to take our own power back. We go to people to fix us. And when somebody gives us some tools, I think we get a little afraid, like, oh, not me, or we've just not been trained in that. So that it's a difficult, fearful thing for people, which is why we like the BioTouch, because it's simple. Like you said, just play. You can't hurt anybody. You're not going to do anything wrong. Take 5 minutes and play with it. But that is the most difficult part in giving this technique freely to humanity is taking responsibility for our own health care. Very difficult.
Well, I love that you've given us some time and that you've shared your story. And I really love Norman didn't fit the description of what we perceive as a healer. He had me at the cigarettes and the smoke, and the way he presented and I don't care if you come back and
right.
I think for me also that created a validity to him that is quite counterintuitive, but I love it. So Norman, I'm going to put, Paul, I'm going to put all the resources in the show notes so people can reach out and hopefully get the first 10 pages of the booklet and all the rest of it. So again, thank you for your time today. And I really hope the method expands internationally along with many other methods like it. Anything that's simple, that doesn't cost money, that taps into our own innate healing is a method worth sharing. So thank you for your time.
And thank you for your time. You're doing great work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
As we wrap up another empowering episode of Building Bulletproof Backs, remember that your journey to healing is within reach. For more invaluable resources and guidance, visit www.bulletproofbacks.com. Dive deeper into Marianne's transformative approach to banishing back pain by exploring her book, From Broken to Bulletproof: Unconventional Ways to Banish Back Pain. Discover the Bulletproof Back System, a holistic framework that integrates mindset, emotional fitness, and quality movement re-education to heal stubborn pain. Whether you're seeking online courses, coaching, or consulting, Marianne has you covered on your path to a pain-free life. Until next time, stay resilient and keep moving forward.